Hello world creators. Today we will have a look at enums in Godot. Out of the 3 data containers that Godot has, the use for enums is probably the most hidden of the 3 due to its rather small field of use. But it's often overlooked, and especially by novice programmers, how immensely helpful enums are to maintain a good and readable code base. Many programmers only learn through painful experience of refactoring and debugging big chunks of the code how much easier everything could have been if they had used enums in the first place. Enums also bring other little quality of life perks with it, such as global referencing, but let's not get ahead of ourselves and begin with the question, what is an enum and when should it be used? They allow you to create a list of related values that you can easily refer to throughout your game. Instead of using arbitrary numbers or strings for state management, enums provide a more organized and readable way to handle values. So every time we have a finite list like states, statuses, modes, or days in a week, we would want to use an enum. Enums are a set of related values, more precisely constant values. We always write the elements of the enums in the curly brackets in caps. This way, everyone reading the code, including our future selves, instantly recognizes that this is a constant value that can't be changed, and having the perks of being highly descriptive of what it's doing. Under the hood, what enums really represent are integers like index numbers of an array. For this reason, if you try to compare an enum to a string like this, even if the compiler does not complain, the test will return false and the function showMenu will not run. For beginners, this is confusing because we give these integers names to recognize them better and make working with them easier, but you have to remember that enums are not strings and can't be compared to strings. In Godot, enums are especially useful when you need to manage states, roles, or modes. Instead of using arbitrary numbers or strings, which can be confusing, we define names like idle, walking, and running. Compare these if statements to this switch statement. It is clearer which of these you would understand better at any time we go back to it to look at it, right? For the case of strings, of course we can use strings instead of numbers, but they are also prone to typos, and what's more, prone to inconsistency throughout different scripts. With enums, you have 3 benefits. First, they can easily be made globally accessible. You can easily access them from any script in your project, which ties to the second benefit that the code is auto-completing. This helps you write code quicker and stay consistent in all of your scripts. Lastly, the compiler will instantly catch an error when checking against an enum constant, which it does not when making if comparisons with a string. This is especially useful when we want to change some parts in our code because it ensures that we can't accidentally miss to update a piece of our code. And this means we are just much more type safe. Furthermore, when changing an enum, we can reliably exchange any instance of this change in the code in one swiftly swoopy through the Ctrl+R find and replace tool of Godot without accidentally overwriting something we shouldn't, which in the case of a string can happen much more easily. Just hit replace all and he did exactly what we need. But let's roll back for a moment. How can we make an enum globally accessible? When setting up an enum, you can do so in 2 ways. Either you write enum, give it a name, and then you give it the values that you want to have. Or what you can do is you just write enum and open up the curly brackets and give him some other values. For example, poisoned and burnt. And since the version of Godot 4, you can make them accessible everywhere inside of your script if you give them a class name. And what I like to do is give it a class name of global enums. With this, if I save this one we already used. It's already here in our player script. He's not complaining. And what I can also do is access, for example, a new variable and call it status. And we are, for example, looking for the global enums, and I want to tell him I am poisoned. There we go. And just like that, my enum, that's in another script, I could use it in my player script. While I really like to use all the enums in one place, what you can also do is group enums into where they belong. For example, if my states here are only important for the enemies and not really for my player, what I can do is just group that inside a global enemy script instead of having a script only for enums. But that is up to personal preference. Just work with it however you can work with it best. If you want to learn more about data containers, you might want to check out my videos about arrays or dictionaries as well. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.